Hey, I'm Tim Nichols from MrMaple.
And I'm Brian, and welcome to the MrMaple Show.
Today we've got a great video for you on a lot of really neat and interesting conifers.
So make sure you sign up for our weekly emails. Every Tuesday we have new trees coming to our website, and check these out. These are pretty awesome.
And on that weekly email, we have a lot of amazing conifers every single week on the 10 at 10 email. So make sure you sign up for that 10 at 10 email so you'll be notified when we add new and exciting conifers every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Hey, I'm Matt, and I hope you enjoy this video on conifers. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as always, share it with your gardening friends. That's the best way for our channel to grow. We greatly appreciate all those comments and encouragement and just ideas for future videos. That helps us a ton, and it also helps us with our upcoming MrMaple podcast. So look out for that. There's a lot of cool things in the works at MrMaple, and we hope you enjoy us increasing our content.
So our first conifer today, I've got a very boring plant for you. This is a very boring plant. It's found in boring Oregon. It's actually an amazing little dwarf pine that has a nice conical shape, and it's called Irish Bell. Again, it's from boring Oregon. I couldn't resist, Matt.
I think this Irishman had too much coffee before the video, but you're gonna love this plant. It has a nice conical shape and really dense, compact habit to it, which gives Irish Bell a really unique look in the landscape. It's one we really enjoy. It's a great candidate for bonsai as well because of that kind of tough, dense appearance to it.
Yeah, and being a dwarf Bosnian pine, this is a plant that's good zones 4 through 7. And so this is a plant you can go out there and pair with your Japanese maples. You can even take it a little bit colder into zone 4, and it'll give you a nice evergreen appearance that's going to give you a nice plant in the landscape and garden.
Hey, it also makes a great gift for your favorite Irishman on St. Patrick's Day because it's going to be in leaf and look amazing. We always joke that we drop trees in accordance with holidays. So it is one we have been known to list on St. Patrick's Day. But it's a fun plant. I think it's one that's going to go out in that conifer garden and add a lot of really nice texture. It almost has like a cathedral-like look to it. It's very formal, but it's just a beautiful overall plant. I mean, it kind of has that tufted foliage to it that I think gives some texture accents in the garden. And it's going to be a plant that looks great in your conifer garden or in a container or a bonsai especially. I think it's a great candidate for bonsai.
And it really has that darker green appearance to it that gives it something different than a typical Pinus strobus or something that you typically see growing in our landscape and garden. That Bosnian darker green from that Bosnian pine really makes it stand out.
So next up we have a really interesting pine. This is Pinus parviflora Goldilocks. It's an excellent smaller overall conifer with more of a rounded shape that gets some excellent accents. Those blue-green older foliage is really accented by the needles being bright golden yellow on the new growth.
Yeah, one that I've heard about this from first is Billy Schwartz, who often says he's one of the founding members of the Conifer Society. And Billy actually did the paperwork for the original paperwork on the Conifer Society. And he told us about this tree because it was so unique and so special. And I grew to love it too, just because of those sort of blonde highlights that you have on this dwarf Japanese white pine.
Yeah, Goldilocks is a really fun plant. It's a great name for this conifer. It's an easy one to get kids interested in because of that name. I mean, my little girls are going to love a Goldilocks in the garden. And it's a plant that, it's a good name, but it's also a good plant. You might hear me say this often, but I like when a good plant has a good name. It certainly pairs well. This is a beautiful conifer for its overall shape and texture. In the early spring garden, you're going to get even more of that yellow, so it's going to accent other conifers that may have blues or greens in the garden very well. But it's one that's a showstopper. I mean, I would say it's a very, very colorful one for a pine for sure.
Yeah, it gives a lot of that golden color. But when you go down to the deep south and hotter climates, you want to make sure you give this some protection from the hot afternoon sun because those blonde highlights can get more burns to them. But they give you some amazing color that really got something unique and something special for a Japanese white pine.
Now, it's a smaller overall habit at around 4 foot and 10 years, but you can also candle varieties like this to keep them even smaller and more compact. It's just a beauty in the landscape. It's one I'd certainly enjoy, and it's one of those variegated looks to a conifer that certainly gives you something different in the landscape.
One of my favorite colors on conifers is the blue they can provide. And Cedrus atlantica Glauca does that in a dramatic fashion.
Yeah, this one's a little faster growing for a cedar, which I like, typically at around 10 to 12 foot, even in 10 years. It's a distinctly upright form, which is a great palette for that blue color as well. That makes it really easy to use it as a focal point planting or foundational planting in your garden. because it makes, you know, some great foundations to pair with those other colors and play off of.
And I think blue is a lot of people's favorite color, and you get that silvery blue color out of a blue atlas. This was actually a tree that was found in the wild years and years ago, and they said this really has some nice blue color, and hence it became Cedrus atlantica glauca.
Yeah, this one works 5 through 9 and is exceptionally durable. Make sure they have good drainage, but we find these to be just excellent here in the South for durability and color. I mean, really the color is what you get with this one. That's the main factor, I think, is that brilliant blue, and it just makes it an excellent plant in the landscape to pair other plants with, especially in the spring garden.
Yeah, Japanese maples, reds, greens, they all pair fantastically with Cedrus atlantica glauca because that blue color, you don't find that in many other plants. And it's a great tree to add in any garden because that blue color is going to really stand out.
So next up, we have one of our favorite pines that you may have heard us even talk about before. We've done a video just highlighting MOSERN before. This is a selection by MOSERN Nursery, which was found in France in the early 1900s, and it's easy to see why this introduction's been so popular and stood the test of time. It's an excellent yellow in the winter months. It's going to be more green during the summer months, but then as it gets into winter, it starts to put on a bright yellow display, which looks excellent on the small dwarf conifer.
And I love this conifer because it has both the short needles and the long needles. The long needles on the older growth, the short needles on the new growth. And when you see this plant, that gives it this almost creature-like appearance. We often joke that if this was called yellow penguin, we couldn't keep it in stock because it would be such a great companion plant to green penguin that we already do.
Yeah, and it is a great companion plant to green penguin. I mean, essentially what this is going to do is make you a really nice, small, conical Christmas tree shape. I mean, it's almost that perfect little penguin shape in the garden that you get with green penguin, but in a yellow format for those winter months. It's an excellent candidate for container gardening or small miniature gardening. It's definitely one that's going to light up in those winter months, though, and just give you some bright yellows and really interesting. I do like the longer needles on the new growth because it just makes it a little more, I don't know, something interesting. It looks kind of a little bit more whimsical even.
Yeah, when you look at it, it really stands out from a lot of other pines because you have both the short needles and the long needles, which really gives an interesting texture on one little dwarf conifer. And again, this is a great tree to add to your conifer troughs, grow in companion plants with Japanese maples, fairy gardens, container plants. It's a great tree in zone 3 through 8 that you can grow, and almost anyone can grow this, and it's going to be a very easy tree to grow in your landscape and garden.
Yeah, because of that smaller overall height, this one's only going to be in that 3 to kind of 4 foot range even in 10 years. So very miniature as far as pines go, but it just brings such a great texture, shape, and color. I think that's really what I like about this one is that overall shape plus the color. Those two things together make it one that you're definitely going to love. And if you haven't already, definitely check out our complete video on this plant. We did a video just highlighting this one. The whole video is just about MOSERN because it's one we like so much.
Our next conifer is a dwarf spreading Japanese white pine called FUKUZUMI. This is one I really like simply because it gets much wider than it does tall.
Yeah, this makes an excellent candidate being a Japanese white pine for bonsai as well. I've seen some excellent bonsai of this one. That overall small stature lends itself really well to container gardening or just a miniature conifer garden. But there are a lot of great uses for this one, whether it be in a container or in the ground. Because of that smaller overall stature and spreading habit, there's some really fun things you can do with this one.
And it has those shorter needles, which make it better for bonsai as well. Being a Japanese white pine, this is a plant that can go in about zones 5 through 7. And so it's a pretty hardy plant, easy to grow. Again, you want to make sure you've got good drainage on this. Every time I think about this plant, I think about the beautiful specimens at Katsura Gardens. Shout out John, appreciate you letting us use some of your photos. And this is a plant that's just awesome the way it shapes with that nice spreading out habit. It gives it something unique and special for a Japanese white pines. They're typically more upright in their habit.
Yeah, more of a lower overall habit to it. The foliage is quite exceptional too. I mean, the needles kind of give it a variegated almost look to it, the way they highlight that green with kind of some of the white tones to them, and especially the winter months. It's an excellent plant to add that structure in the winter garden, and I think it's one you're going to enjoy in your garden for sure. So we've been adding some roundtable kind of discussion parts to our videos recently, and we hope you enjoy those. We're mostly known for Japanese maples, but we can be quite passionate about our conifers as well. Since updating our new website, we've had close to 300 different conifers listed just in that short time frame. So there's a lot to see. One thing that's kind of cool in MrMaple is you can always go to the MrMaple files, and you can see everything we've listed probably in the last 3 years on there. And so there's a wealth of plant descriptions, and you can also sign up to get notified if one of these is out of stock when it comes back in. So it's a great way to sign up to get notified there, or just to plant, dream, and look at some of those files, because there are lots of pages. Fair warning, you may get lost in there. It's a lot of content.
And when you think about, when you get to start checking through there, a lot of people look at those MrMaple files and they say, you're sold out of everything. Well, our goal is to always make more things available. And you can't have everything available at one time, but we're constantly adding new trees through our 10 at 10. And that's the way you sign up to learn about all the new things that are coming out. Or if there's something specific you're looking for, like Matt said, you can click on that notify me button.
Yeah, there's always going to be a lot of cool things we're out of, but currently I think we're probably somewhere around 70 conifers. Now, we shot this video in January of 2022, so these are size examples for that time frame. If you're watching this video either a year later, it may be slightly smaller or slightly larger, so you never know there. But these are kind of size examples for this time frame, and just some of our favorite conifers. We wanted to pull together a little collection and just kind of talk about some of the things that were kind of cool in the greenhouse right now. Now, out of this listing of conifers, if we were narrowing it down just to this, Tim, what would you say is kind of your favorite of this grouping?
Since I get to go first,
all right,
I'm choosing MOSERN.
Yeah, I knew you would.
And it's one of my favorites because of that yellow color. I love when you put yellow plants in the landscape, because they draw out all the other colors. You start to see the other greens in the landscape. MOSERN, for its winter interest, its dwarf habit, short and long needles. That one's my winner for me.
It's a good choice. It's an obvious choice. I like it a lot. It would have probably been my top choice a year ago if I was making this video. So it does change quite a bit. True to form, I actually have a different opinion on this one. I actually probably would pick Irish Bells. I like the textures that it brings. I like the overall darkness of the foliage. It's a great pairing with a lot of the Japanese maples I can plant near it through every season. It's just a great overall plant. You know, Mom recently did a DNA test, so if Mom's watching this, she always assumed she was heavily Irish and found out she was heavily Scottish. Pretty close there, but it was kind of funny. But yeah, I really enjoy this one. I think Irish Bells is just a great all-around plant. I'm impressed with its texture more than anything. I think it makes a good foundational planting. Like you put this one out in the garden, and then the garden kind of builds itself around it because you've got that structure already added.
And it has that really nice shape, probably where it gets the name Bell from. But that darker green color really adds a lot with the way the needles are structured on the Bosnian pine.
For sure.
I agree.
I like it. It kind of has a real dense appearance to it, and I think it just makes a really nice palette for that darker color.
But if you have a lot of room in your landscape, you got to put a Glauca out there. I mean, that blue color is going to add so much in the landscape and garden. If you've got room for an upright cedar that's going to get 10, 12 feet in 10 years.
I find it to be a pretty fast grower at over a foot of growth a year, so it's pretty nice for a conifer if you want a conifer that's going to get out there and go after it. I mean, a lot of these that we're talking about are true dwarfs and more miniature sizes. This is one that will definitely put some size on it as it gets out there and matures, and in a faster rate as well.
And the fact that you get blue color out of it, you don't get that out of a lot of the dwarfs. And you can get a lot of that blue color out there and contrast it nicely with the greens and the reds and a lot of the other plants.
So I'm also a huge fan of Goldilocks. I mean, that was probably one of my backups if I'd have thought about it long enough. It's a fun plant. I think the spring color makes it really exceptional in the landscape. You know, we've got a nice one of these in the ground, and it just kind of shows out. I mean, it's one that you definitely notice, especially in that early spring garden. We've had one here at the nursery in the bank garden, and it's one that gets a lot of comments. People go by there and they're like, what's the conifer on the bank? And so it's been one we've had to strive to make available just because it's probably one of the ones on the banks that get talked about the most, especially when we have open hours here at the nursery. Hey, thanks for watching another MrMaple video. We greatly appreciate you liking, subscribing, and sharing this with your garden friends. You've heard me say it, but sharing it with your garden friends is the best way for our channel to grow. We grow greatly in sales just based off word of mouth, so we greatly appreciate you sharing our channel. We take our time to make this content, and we hope you enjoy it. So you can let us know by commenting and sharing a like, and that's a great way to let us know that what we're doing is worthwhile for your time and that you're making it through these videos and enjoying them for sure.
Conifers add such a unique thing in the landscape and garden, and we're going to try to put more conifer content out there as long as it's something that you're wanting. So make sure to put that in the comments if you're interested in more conifer content. We'll do more and more conifer videos as well. And we're going to try to start if this is something that you want, doing some other interesting conifers that we'll be providing on future 10 at 10s.
Yeah, definitely sign up for our weekly emails on MrMaple. We had 10 new plants every single Tuesday at 10. You know, especially even in these winter months, pretty much all year, we have a lot of good conifers coming on there. We've been cheating a little bit lately. I mean, we call it a 10 at 10. There's been closer to 20 plants on there every time, and some new and exciting conifers. We've been really adding a lot of our newer content right now. So definitely check that out. It's a great way to see just kind of some fun and new plants that excite us and what we want to put out there. I mean, it's things that we kind of get excited about. That's really what we propagate here at MrMaple, are the plants that get us enthusiastic. So,
and please make sure to take time and like this video. That helps more people see it in the algorithm. Also make sure to comment, and as always, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll be notified often when we're putting more and more videos up, and right now we're trying to get them out daily.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate that. Hey, thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of a MrMaple video. Let us know in the comment section below what your favorite conifer was that we talked about in today's video. So many good choices, but just let us know which one spoke to you the most, which one really kind of piqued your interest there. We greatly appreciate you watching. God bless.
And have a great day.